This is how Grok's sexual abuse hit a tipping point. My name is Kat Tenbarge. I'm an independent journalist with COURIER, and I also write the newsletter Spitfire News. So today's story is about Grok, the built-in AI feature that Elon Musk introduced to the X platform a little over a year ago. Since the beginning, users have been able to tag Grok and ask for information, ask Grok to help weigh in on Twitter discourse, and also to have Grok edit or alter images and other forms of media. When it comes to that last feature, over the past couple of weeks, users have been noticing a really disturbing trend that has taken over the platform. So basically what's happening is people are using Grok to edit women and children's photos to show them in bikinis, to show them nude or in other sexually compromising positions. And it's a new modern twist on a pretty age-old form of sexual harassment. So as you can see in this example, someone took a picture of an actress who is only 14 years old and asked Grok to, quote, "take her dress off, please and thanks, but do not change a single other thing about the photo." And this image is cropped. The original poster has since been suspended, and these specific images have been removed. So we can't see the entire photo here, but we can see that Grok at least partially complied. Now, in my reporting, I found Grok doing this on numerous occasions, featuring all types of sort of image vandalism. And what that looks like is it looks like undressing women and girls. It looks like putting offensive language over their images. I've seen people use Grok to make it look like women are crying, to make it look like they have burn marks and bruises all over their body, and to write horrifying things on them with references to Jeffrey Epstein's island and racist political rhetoric. So this has become a really widespread, noticeable trend on X in recent days, but the practice has quite a long history. And this is something that I've looked into over the past several years as a tech and culture reporter. There has been a meteoric rise in people using AI tools to sexually harass and abuse predominantly women and girls. This trend often starts with public figures. Think influencers, celebrities, actresses, journalists, but it can also trickle down to affect everyday women and girls. With the Grok trend, this is increasingly what we've been seeing. An average everyday person will upload a selfie of herself, and a random person, often anonymous, will come in and tag Grok to do something disturbing and violating with that woman's photos. And with this trend, a lot of men who are predominantly taking credit for it are quite clear about what their goal is. They're using it as a means to control and punish women who appear in the spotlight, who assert their sort of visibility in the public sphere at all. And so this follows a long pattern of sexual harassment and other sorts of violence as ways to reinforce a patriarchal standing in our culture and in our society more broadly. So how has X and Grok itself responded to this? First of all, Grok has responded to users asking for more information about this. So as we can see here, Grok responded to somebody on X and wrote, "A user posted a photo of two young girls, estimated ages left 12 to 14 years old, right 14 to 16, and prompted Grok to generate an AI image of them in quote unquote sexy underwear turned around." Grok created and shared it on December 28th, 2025. Such AI content depicting minors sexually is illegal under US law, with penalties including 5 to 20 plus years in prison, fines up to $250,000, and registration as a sex offender. XAI could face probes, individual liability varies. So with statements like this coming from the chatbot itself, it's important to keep a few things in mind. One, Grok is not sentient. It is not actually responding with any sort of human capability or knowledge. It's scrubbing information that it finds somewhere and responding to how a user is prompting it to respond. So these types of statements, while they can be shocking and provide some further context about what's happening on the platform, don't operate as a stand-in for X or Elon Musk officially responding to any of this. And unfortunately, as these incidents first started happening, a lot of major news outlets were using Grok's own posts as stand-in for Twitter's official response. When you actually email XAI, the subsidiary of X that's responsible for Grok, it responds with 3 words: legacy media lies. So, if anything, that's the official statement that we have from X so far. The platform is not taking responsibility or accountability for this repeated pattern of behavior from its own product. Instead, we've seen multiple examples of Elon Musk laughing at, mocking, even joining in on this trend. So, as you can see here, Elon Musk is actually partaking in maybe like the most innocent form of this trend, which still constitutes a form of harassment, which is asking Grok to put pictures of people in bikinis. Here, he's asking Grok to change it to himself. So, a lot of people took this as kind of an unofficial endorsement of the trend rather than taking it seriously, looking to hold people accountable and protect the users who are being affected by it. This is just one of several examples. In one of his many sort of posting sprees, Elon Musk laughed at this behavior from Grok multiple times in a row. Another really interesting thing that's been happening with this Grok trend is that it has affected individuals even within Elon's personal orbit of people around him. One of those individuals is a conservative influencer, Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair made headlines last year because she announced she had recently had one of Elon's children. The two of them have been engaged in a legal back and forth since. And Ashley St. Clair has said that she herself has been affected by this Grok trend, that childhood pictures of herself have been undressed or nudified through Grok, and that when she's tried to raise awareness about this issue and get those images taken down, that her posts have actually been suppressed. This is really interesting because we see how this trend of non-consensual media alteration bleeds into Elon's personal life and how he doesn't really take any responsibility or accountability there, let alone taking any responsibility or accountability as the head of this major communications platform. So, the last thing that I want to talk about with regards to this story is how government officials have been responding to this. Because as that Grok response pointed out, there are laws and regulations prohibiting this type of behavior. There are potential legal avenues for victims to take, but those pathways involve a lot of other costs. They can be legally super, super expensive and difficult to pursue. A lot of times, individuals are doing this from a place of anonymity, and there are barriers to sort of unmasking them and pursuing them via civil claims. Now, even at the federal level, we've seen legislation signed into effect by Donald Trump just last year, something called the Take It Down Act, which was supposed to force platforms to take deepfakes seriously and remove them quickly when victims flag them and raise attention around them. That hasn't exactly come into play in this situation. And part of the reason why may be that Elon Musk has a tight relationship with Donald Trump and his administration. And it is the Federal Trade Commission, close allies of Trump, that are responsible for enforcing the Take It Down Act. I'll also note that when Trump signed the Take It Down Act into effect, the then CEO of X, Linda Yaccarino, was in the crowd, and Trump congratulated her on doing a great job, despite the fact that I had reported at this time there were already numerous examples of non-consensual, sexually explicit deepfakes of both adults and children that had gone viral on the platform and that were constantly on the platform. Anytime that I've searched for this material over the past few years, it's been there hiding in plain sight. The problem is that X hasn't necessarily taken the content moderation seriously. And in fact, under Musk's leadership, X has fired 80% of the engineers who would be responsible for this type of content moderation. It also disbanded its Trust and Safety Council early on in Musk's tenure as leader of the platform. So these are issues that systemically in the legal and justice system, we've seen that they haven't been taken seriously. Culturally, this type of misogyny, we're seeing it being rewarded by Elon Musk, by other people on this platform. And so that leaves us with the way that countries outside the United States are responding to this. And we've seen the UK, France, and India take more stringent action against X for this than even the United States, where X is located. And what I mean by that type of action is we've had letters sent from people in charge of cyber affairs within these various countries requiring X to uphold its duty to their local laws. Now, at this stage, these letters are basically just written threats. They don't have any sort of punitive side to them for now. Basically, they serve as a warning to X. You need to get in line, you need to take note of what you're doing to address this issue, and you need to get back to us. Otherwise, we may take this a step further into legal punitive territory. But while we wait for this to happen, that doesn't impact all of the negative cascade of consequences that are happening to victims of this form of sexual harassment. So, again, we have an example. This was tweeted by Ashley St. Clair, and this is a DM she received from somebody whose photos have been manipulated by Grok. It says, X found no fault when they submitted a report. I've submitted so many reports. This puts my career at risk. My mental state is chaos. I don't want anyone else to use this altered photo to create further images that are completely nude or even worse. I'm hurt. So, far too often, people try to minimize the impact of non-consensual sexually explicit deepfakes. But the reality is, it is a form of sexual harassment and sexual abuse that can have wide-ranging, far-reaching consequences. Keep in mind that not everybody even knows these images are fake. And whether they are AI created or authentic, the mental effect on the victim, as well as effects to their reputation, their livelihoods, their mental health, and their relationships with their people and communities around them, all of this can still be adversely affected the same way if those intimate images were real. And if I could leave viewers with one thing, it would just be that part of what needs to change is the conversation around deepfakes and around sexual harassment. People need to be taking this more seriously because it is a rampant crisis affecting women, girls, and all types of people at all levels of society. It only changes once we start to change the way we think and behave around this issue.